All right, guys. So this house here, would it be pretty safe to say we could write it off? If there's anybody in there, they're probably not going to make it. I feel pretty good about that. I'd say it's a pretty good assumption most people would make, unless they're in this bedroom. If you're this guy here, you might have a different opinion. That bedroom is in the AD corner, so that's right here. The only reason I point that out is, when we do a size up, we want to take time to check out, a full 360 and see what's going on. I'm not advocating that we do things that are dangerous or exceptionally dangerous and unnecessarily dangerous, but I think that this room here is pretty safe to go in. Think about somebody in there maybe that's just an invalid and they couldn't get themselves out. That's somebody that you could save right there. So who am I? Why we're here? My name's Dave Rodriguez. I'm a fireman in St. Louis City. I've been in the fire service for about 12 years. Before I went to the city, I worked here in Hillsboro. I worked here for about 4 years, I think. And then I was employed here for about 4 years. I don't know how much work I did. But anyway, so I worked here, and I also worked part-time at Antonia and volunteered. That's where I got my start. So I'm familiar with, the rule setting, limited manpower, limited water, all of that stuff. So I can relate. In the city, I worked for Truck 10, pretty busy house. We ran just shy of 3,000 calls, 500 some odd fires or whatever. Now that will include some, a dumpster fire or two here and there, but we did run a fair amount of fires. So who are you guys? Why are you guys here? You guys just here because it's Monday night and you have to take this class, or you guys got a big fire? Oh, that is awesome. That's cool. So anybody that knows me knows that I'm very into this mic'd up business right now. And now that everybody up and down Fifth Street can hear me, I'm pretty damn excited. So who are you guys and why are you here? If you're just here because it's Monday night and you got to be here and take the class, that's cool. So the rule, you guys maybe you guys are here because you wanted to make me a little more nervous. There's some more people in front of me. That's cool too. But hopefully you're here to pick something up, learn a new technique that's maybe new to you, but not new to the fire service. But we can go from that. Course objectives here. By the end of this course, I want all of us to be able to identify and define the acronym VEIS. Anybody know what it means right now, top of your head? Vent, enter, isolate, search. Yeah. You got a hand out there. You're going to be able to determine if a fire scene meets 4 out of 4 critical criteria before implementing the VEIS procedure. And just so you guys know, if I slip up and I say VES, VEIS, those are all going to be interchangeable for us. Here you guys go. I got one more. Pass those back to them, please. Those will be interchangeable. It's just a slip of the tongue. I don't mean it. You guys are going to be able to select the minimum tools and equipment to conduct a VEIS from one-story window. You're going to be able to accurately predict the direction smoke and fire gases will travel through a structure after a window's been broken during ventilation efforts. You're going to be able to perform the VEIS operations utilizing the minimum required tools and equipment. So there's some stuff you guys can use beyond the minimum, but you don't have to. So what is this? VEIS. It's a high-risk procedure with a high reward. It's a search technique that I believe should be reserved for our more seasoned and veteran firefighters. I don't think that it's a place for a new guy to go. VEIS. Ventilate, enter, isolate, search. I've already talked about that. This technique was developed by the FDNY, perfected by the FDNY. A lot of what we learned tonight came from their SOGs, so it's not just some stuff that I pulled together and thought, hey, this is a pretty good idea. These guys have done it for a long time, and it saved a lot of people. The sole purpose of the vent, enter, isolate, search procedure is to save lives. It looks really cool, but its sole purpose is to save lives. What's the main mission of the fire service? Life safety, protect lives. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. We're saving lives. Here's an example right here. These are actually two guys that I work with, so that's where I was able to get some of the first-hand experience or knowledge from. Guy Justin Karch and my captain Mark Brunn. Justin entered a second-story window and found a 10-year-old boy lying next to his bed, drug him over to the window and passed him out the window to my captain. They brought him down, performed CPR, and was able to get a heartbeat back, and the kid's still alive to this day. So it does work. Here's a short video. You'll see some things maybe we'll talk about later that you might decide, hey, that's not exactly how Dave said we should do it, but you'll see the procedure work. In this, they're going to rescue a young infant. I can't remember how old she was, but we'll kind of talk through it too and see some things, point a few things out. There is, but it's... So you see the guy going in through the window here. There's smoke coming out of the window. He's going in, and you're going to see the smoke kind of stop and lift. At that point, I'm going to speculate that what he did was isolated that room from the rest of the fire. Right now, I think he just closed the door. So he's performing a search. He's going to find the kid. He's going to bring her out. You'll notice the smoke will start to pick back up. There was a school of thought that said that you should open the door back up to allow for ventilation. Continue to ventilate. Some people believe that. I don't think that's the way to go. So you'll see the smoke pick back up, come out pretty heavy, and you'll see another guy run up and grab that kid. Right about there, I think he just opened that door back up. They knew the kid was in there because the mom was in the driveway saying, my baby's in that room right there. So, notice that this guy doesn't have all of his gear on. He's trying to get his stuff on when he's going up the ladder. That's just not going to work. You've got to be ready to go from the get-go. That's it. So that was a life saved right there. Let me skip through that. I'm not so sure about some of their fundamentals of firefighting that they talked about. Anybody have any questions on those videos or anything we've talked about thus far? Okay. So I believe there's a bunch of different aspects of this vent, enter, isolate, search process. I think the more you know about it and what's involved with it, the better able you are to make a decision about whether or not you can perform that procedure at a house fire. So we're going to talk a little bit about ventilation, forcible entry, building construction, ladders, search, and then a survivability profile, which I thought was pretty interesting. So ventilation, there's basically two types of ventilation out there. Venting for life and venting for fire. If we vent for life, what we're doing is we're aiding our search and rescue efforts. If we're venting for fire, what we're doing is we're aiding our fire suppression efforts. One thing to remember is that when you ventilate for life, you're going to be bringing smoke and heat towards you. So you need to be ready for that. We know that we can't push fire with water. That myth has been dispelled. We don't have to attack fire only from the unburned side. You're not going to push fire with water. But we can pull smoke and heat throughout a house by improper ventilation. Flow paths and studies on flow paths have proven that theory. So we certainly can bring all of that towards us when we ventilate a building improperly, and even when we ventilate for life. So here's an example of it. This is a pretty small example. If you look at this house here, if there was a fire in this front room, and we break, or anywhere really, and we break, I guess let's say the front room, we break this front window here, and then we make entry through that front door. Smoke's just going to kind of churn throughout that room and right out that door, okay? It's a pretty small flow path. Now, if we open it up and we talk about a little bit bigger scenario, we have a fire in this front room. We open this door and we start to make a fire attack. And somebody comes along and they open this window here. If we didn't have the red arrow there, could everybody speculate where all the fire and smoke would go? Okay. What it's going to do is it's going to draw right through there because this bedroom window is open. This thing doesn't have a pointer, does it? Yeah, true. Anyway, so it would pull right through that open door. We're able to close that door and isolate it, and we're in a much better position. Again, a bigger scenario. This is a 2-story home. Fire's on the first, and it's going to pull throughout that first floor, break out the back window in the living room, and it's just going to travel right through there, and it's going to charge that whole area. But what if it's a 2-story house, and can we pull it to the second floor? Absolutely. We can make this arrow go really almost any direction we want, as long as there's an open pathway. So you can see here that this doorway is open. So if that doorway is open, we're making a fire attack to that front door, and we break that window open. It's going to allow all that smoke and everything like that to come through there. It's already going to be smoke in that room. There's going to be some heat and smoke in there. But now we're going to give that a relief point, and so it's going to pull it up there now. We want to control the flow path. Once we break a window or we create an opening, we've just started that flow path. It's hard to close an opening that you've created. If anybody knows a real quick and in a hurry way to fix a window you just broke out, let me know now, because I can change this class. But other than that, we're just going to have to close the door. Any opening we make is a ventilation opening. It doesn't matter if it's opening the front door to bring in a hose line. That's still a ventilation opening. Air's going to go in, air's going to go out. It's a ventilation opening. Today's fires are getting to be more and more ventilation controlled. Look at any house you go into now, there's usually more junk crammed into any one room than you have, than most houses had 30 years ago. So this is an example of probably a typical living room, maybe different furniture, depends on the house, but a lot of stuff. Look at this house here. Would you imagine that this house is ventilation limited or ventilation controlled or fuel controlled at this point? Fuel controlled. Yeah, it's got all the ventilation in the world. So with the previous picture, what was going to happen is that fuel would burn up. We would run out of air before we ran out of fuel. I think in this picture here, we're obviously going to run out of fuel before we run out of air. Isolation. That's the big part of this vent, enter, isolate, search procedure. All isolation is closing that room off. So once we close the door, it's isolated. We've improved the tenability and the survivability of that room. Easiest and simplest way to do that is just to close the door to the room. We're going to see a video soon that's really going to help hammer that home. So soon as now. This video was done in New York on Governor's Island. Should play here in a second. It's kind of a slow startup. There it goes. So it's going to play on, this video was recorded in Governor's Island, New York. It was done by UL, NAST, and FDNY. You'll see the effects of closing off a door in a fire. In this situation, the fire's in the living room on the first floor. This video was shot from the rear of the building. You see some smoke coming out of that first floor, back door there. This window they just broke is to a bedroom on the second floor with the doorway closed. You can see there's really no smoke coming out or anything like that. See what happens when they break the next window with the door open to the bedroom. It's also a good reason or reminder for you to sit with your bedroom door closed at night. I guess they don't have the same air standards in New York as we do here. So, watch the smoke come out of your brother. This bedroom door was open. At this point in time, you got to make a decision. And is this an enter or not? You got to decide what the temperature is of that smoke, how hot it is, how much pressure is coming. The smoke really might not be coming out, or it might not be that hot. It just depends. And at the ceiling level, it's going to be a lot hotter than the floor level. And that's really what we're going to be concerned about. Now, they're going to close this door with a remote. You'll see that here in a second. When they close this door, you're going to see the ceiling temperature drop from, well, they'll show that later, but after they broke the window, it went from 350 to 600 at the ceiling. They're going to close the door and you'll see the temperature drop. They close the door, you see the smoke lifts. It's a tenable atmosphere. The temperatures drop, and you can make entry into there alive to be safe. So once we close the door for this open bedroom, the temperature of the floor went from 170 to 120 just by closing the door. We'll learn later on what some of the survivability is, but we know that at 170 degrees that somebody could survive. They're going to end up with some burns, but they could survive. Does anybody have any questions on any of that? No? You guys need a break or going pretty quick? All right, talk about some forcible entry. The old adage of try before you pry really doesn't apply to vent, enter, isolate, search. What we're trying to do is get in and get to a person that we know is in there. So we're not worried about conserving property. We'll talk about this guy's ladder placement here in a little bit. With force entry, some basic forcible entry stuff right here. But one thing that we want to make sure we definitely do is clear the sash of the window frames and clear out any curtains or blinds, anything like that. I mean, think about trying to crawl through any of these curtains here and how that's going to get tangled up on your FCBA, your helmet, and now you could go from somebody that's trying to make a rescue to somebody that needs to be rescued. How do we want to break our windows? Does anybody use the practice of breaking windows with their tips of their ladders? I mean, a lot of people do. I get it. You know, I've done it before. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to vent for fire, it's maybe not that big of a deal. But if we're venting for life, we don't want to break these windows with our ladder tips. We want to go up. We want to use our tool to do it. Conditions can change too rapidly to break the windows from the ground, climb the ladder, and then, you got to be ready to go. So you got a finite amount of time to make a decision whether or not this is a go or no go. And if you're wasting time on the ground, putting your gear on, repositioning ladders and stuff like that, you're going to lose it. Anybody agree, disagree? Questions, comments, concerns? Some building construction stuff. What type of construction's in your area? What does Hillsboro have, Patrick? Yeah, it's not in there. Okay, all right. What about Hillsboro? Same thing? Or I'm sorry, DeSoto Rule. A lot of lightweight construction. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So those are some of the things with the construction types. What about floor plans? You guys know the floor plan of a lot of houses? What's the subdivision over here? Brickyard subdivision. There's probably 4 or 5 home types in there. I would imagine, just from experience, that you might know the layout of those homes. If you went on a call and somebody said somebody's in a bedroom and they wouldn't go in a house, would you know which way to get there, Dan? Most likely. I mean, you'd probably walk in and it's to the left, right, straight, back, whatever. I mean, you just have an idea. How can you learn some of these things, though? You can learn from experience. Use your EMS calls and your automatic alarms. Use them as free tours. When you go there, handle your job, do your job, but don't just look at it as an EMS run. Look at it as a fire run. When you walk up to that building, size it up and think, how would I get in here? And once I'm in here, which way would I go? What would I do once I'm in? This is your typical ranch-style house, this floor plan. Everybody agree with that? All right? Usually, from my experience, your ranch-style houses are going to have your bedrooms opposite of your garage and kitchen area. Usually you'll walk in, there's a living room, garage maybe to your right or left, it just depends on your orientation, and then you'll go down a hallway with some bedrooms off of it. Anybody agree, disagree? Split foyer. These homes are usually the ones that have the garage right there. You walk in, go a few steps, in a little foyer, you can walk down to the basement or up to the living room. Usually your living room is above the basement. Sometimes there's living quarters down there, and your bedrooms are above the garage. So that's another concern because you might have cars in the garage that catch fire. And so now you have people trapped in these bedrooms directly above the fire. Shotgun style home. You may not see a lot of these in Hillsboro, maybe some real old ones in DeSoto. You might have something like that. They're just usually a real narrow, kind of rectangular shaped house. Straight back, all the rooms are stacked, one on top of the other, or one in front of the other, rather. And you pass through each room to get to the next. Two-story homes I find to be similar to a ranch-style house, except you take all your common areas, kitchen, living room, that sort of thing, you put it on the first floor, and all your private living areas, your bedrooms, and you put them on the second floor, right above. Everybody kind of agree with that? So how can you tell where some of these things are in a house you've never been in? Well, we just talked about some of it. But when you walk up to a house, you're going to start to look at some windows. Those firemen or firefighters, we usually walk up to a house, we see windows, and we think, all right, there's a window there, so I know there's a point of egress if I need it. There's a window there, there's another point of egress if I need it. But veteran firefighters will look at those windows, and they'll think about where those windows lead to. Has anybody ever looked at a window and known where that window goes or thought about where it went even? Maybe after this you'll start to think about that. When you're driving through your stills, you'll think, is that a bedroom, bathroom, or what? Can anybody point out the bedroom windows in this house that they had to guess? Yeah, I'd say the top corners. I don't have the layout of this house. I don't know, but I could speculate based on my experience that those are the bedrooms. What about this house? Your typical ranch. To the left, yeah. Would anybody think of this as a bedroom window here? No. I mean, it could be, but I would probably think of it as a den, maybe a formal dining area, something like that. So when I look at those windows, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Now, when I see a picture window, what I call a picture window, big giant windows, I usually think living room, great room. I don't think a bedroom. Why is that important? Well, because we're going to be looking for people in bedrooms, so I don't really care where the living room is. When I see big banks of windows, 5, 6, 7, 8 windows in a row, well, unless we're talking about a big mansion, I'm thinking, again, that's a living room. Anybody else lucky enough to have that many windows in your bedroom? Man, that's awesome, but that's what I'm thinking. Kitchen windows, usually they're toward the rear of the house, maybe on the side, and they're usually elevated, a little bit smaller. Think about your kitchen window above your sink. So it kind of makes sense why they're that size. And usually a lot of times they were overlooked something, they had something to look at besides the front of the house. Kids out back playing, like cook, stuff like that. Great kumbaya moment. Our stairwell window. Now this one here is kind of a cheater window because it's right above the stairwell here in the doorway. Pretty good indicator there's a stairwell there. This window here, there's no doorway or anything to maybe put away. But does anybody have any thing that might give it away? Know something? It's offset, yeah. So a window that looks like it's between its floor in between floors is probably because it is between two floors. It's probably a landing for a stairwell. So, I mean, that's good for this vent enter isolate surge procedure, or just for knowing when I walk up to this building as I'm sizing it up, if we're pulling down the street this way, I know that the stairwell is along that exterior wall and not the interior wall. Bathroom windows, they're usually a little smaller. They're frosted, have some type of other privacy coating, usually elevated a little bit. So when you're doing your thing, nobody can see you. I think all that stuff rises anyway. So. Interior doors. Our interior doors usually swing inward and into a room. You can be mindful of bedrooms that have an attached bathroom, something like that. Those doors also swing into a room, or swing into the bathroom, but don't lead into a bedroom. So just because you come across the door that swings in doesn't necessarily mean it's swinging into a bedroom. But your closet doors and stuff like that usually swing out. So if you're in a room, you're crawling around looking for a door to isolate, you find a door that swings inward, you know that could be a bedroom door, or maybe it's a closet door. You got to figure that out. So these doors here, let me make sure I get them right for you. Door number 1 to the far left is just a flush oak hollow core door. Door number 2 is a molded 6-panel hollow core door, and door number 3 is a solid pine 6-panel door. If you guys try and remember that for this next slide, I want to show you just how much protection these doors can offer. Does anybody care to wager any bets? I don't know if I can. Does anybody care to make any wagers of how long these doors might last? These are just your cheapo Home Depot Lowe's doors. These are not fire-rated special doors. Anybody guess? Minute, 2 minutes, 10. Okay. What they did was they took these doors and they put them on a big giant gas burner. They had them hanging upright, and then they lit the burner off. So at 0 seconds, the gas turns on. At 1 minute into it, all 3 doors started to emit a light smoke from the top. At 2 minutes in, all the doors started to have heavy smoke from the top. At 2:20, door 1, so that was the first hollow core door, not the 6-panel one, just the smooth one, developed the bubble on the unexposed surface. So the unexposed surface is going to be the side that's inside the room that's protected. So exposed surface has the flame impingement, unexposed is inside the room. 2:26, door 3, the solid one, had a little bit of flaming occur along the leading edge. That's going to be the knob side. 3 minutes, all the doors started to bow outwards from the furnace. So they actually started to bow into the room, away from the furnace. At 3:28, door 3 had a little bit of flaming along the top of the frame. 3:41, and then again at 4:36, door 3 had some flaming reoccur along the leading edge, the knob side. 3:47, door 2, a little bit of flame along the hinge side. 5:02, this is the one that really matters to me. That's the most conservative number. At 5:02, door number 3, the solid door, the unexposed surface of the door had begun to burn. So what that tells me is that 5 minutes, it took 5 minutes for that unexposed side to start to burn. I think that's 5 minutes worth of protection just from closing a door. That's pretty impressive to me. It goes on to, take almost just over 6 minutes before some of those doors burn all the way through, but that time doesn't matter to me. I want the most conservative time when it comes to my life on the line. And so I'm going to look at 5 minutes and 2 seconds. These weren't tests that I made up or anything like that. This was Underwriter's Laboratory. They did, these controlled tests. They knew the therms. Exactly. Right. So like the video we saw, that fire was first floor, other end of the house, and you saw that smoke coming through there and you shut the door. I mean, if there's no flame impingement on there, how long do you think that door is going to last? So this is worst case scenario. That just goes to show you how important closing that door can be and what it can mean for you. So even these small, cheapo interior doors can provide some level of protection for you. And I think a pretty significant level of protection for you. Anybody have any questions about any of those? No? Anybody want to take a quick break? Think it's good? Let's take a quick break. Give me a break. If I turn this off, will it reset the recorder? I'll just leave it here.
No, yeah, just turn it off.
Okay, I didn't know if it reset the...
No, it reset. It just won't.
You mind if I set that there? What do I got coming up? Ladders? I turned it on. Thank you. Good break. Everybody use the bathroom, stuff like that. Upper deck them. So here's a picture of us. Tens. We were doing some ladder training the other day. You need to be proficient with your ladders. So if you guys get like that, you'll be pretty good. We need to know what ladders we have on our trucks, and we need to be very proficient with them. So ladders are one of the bread and butter tools of firemen. Most people think of firemen with axes, hoses, nozzles, but they also think of us with ladders. So we need to be proficient with them. Do you guys know what ladders you carry on our trucks here, Patrick? Care to indulge?
Yeah, 35-foot fence ladder, 3 ladders, 24-foot fence ladder.
All right. Can you throw a 24-foot ladder by yourself? Anybody here throw a 24-foot ladder by themselves? I mean, not everybody can. Some people have the upper body strength. They've done it, the technique to do it. Some people can't. It's no big deal. But you need to be proficient with them. You need to not only know what ladders you have, but you need to make sure you know how to use them and that you can get them set up quickly. You also need to be able to place them properly, know where they go, and be able to size that up right. That's something that you're just going to get from experience. You don't need to spend a whole lot of time on, one more rung, no, down rung, 2 rungs up, one. You need to be ready to go. You need to be able to raise the ladder once, put it to the window, and be ready to go. So how far is that ladder going to reach? Just a quick little rule of thumb. If you take the ladder's length, say a 24-foot ladder like this example here, the first number will kind of tell you what floor it can go to. So 24-foot ladder will reach the second floor window. Now, this rule of thumb doesn't always hold true if we have a walkout basement, uneven grade, or exceptionally tall interior home, or floors inside. The average floor inside of a residential building is between 8 and 10 feet tall. Sometimes there's atriums or houses in rain trees if you're assistant chief or something like that. But other than that, that's what we have. Can you ever use a ladder to reach the first floor of a house? Might that ever be necessary? Yeah, if you have a walkout basement or just an uneven grade, you might use that roof ladder to access. But we're going to use a ladder for the VEIS procedure. We're going to use what I like to call an exaggerated rescue angle. Studies have shown that most firemen and most people in general aren't very good at estimating ladder angles. And we usually don't put our ladders at the proper angle anyway. So what's the recommended angle that we're supposed to use? 75 degrees. So most people probably put their ladders between 70 and 65 degrees. That's what kind of studies have shown. And it seems to work out okay. What I'd like to do for this exaggerated rescue angle, if you take a look at this red line on here, that's about a 60-degree angle. That's where we need to put our ladders for that rescue angle. At that angle, We shouldn't really have any problems with slippage, and we're also going to take off a lot of a victim's weight, take that off of us and put it on the ladder. So when we're taking somebody out of a window and bringing them down that ladder, there's going to be a lot more of the victim on the ladder than there is on us. So it's going to be a lot easier. Now, can you go lower? Can you go to a 50 or 40 degree angle? Absolutely. If you have a way to tie it off, or you can butt it against another structure or curb or something, yeah, why not? There's nothing that says that you couldn't. I mean, eventually you would get to a point where it would be just a plane. But, yeah. Ladder placement. Like I said before, we want to set our ladders up right. We want to set them up right the first time. Does everybody know how to set a ladder up for rescue? Anybody tell me how a ladder should be set up for rescue? What that means? Below a windowsill. Right. So when we go to ventilate this window for the VEIS procedure, we want to set this ladder up from the beginning for rescue. We don't want to set it up next to the window, break the window, climb down, reposition the ladder, and then climb the ladder again. We don't have time for that. Conditions can change much too quickly. We set the ladder up once, and we go from there. Anybody know why we use or everybody sees why we use the rescue setup, why we put it below the windowsill, what that does to the window? Gives us the most room, the most access. We're not blocking half of the window with our ladder rungs. You can see in this picture here that this fireman has his ladder set up for rescue. He's taking this window out. He's going to start up high, alleviate some of that pressure, let some of that smoke out, and then work his way down. Also, he's not going to try and break down low and then at risk of pane and glass sliding down or something like that. You can also tell that his ladder angle is probably not 70 degrees or 75 degrees. Seems to be working out okay for him. He's got all of his gear on, ready to go. Minus his. Anybody? Good. Ladder placement to the roof. Sometimes we might put our ladder to a roof, like a porch or a covered deck or something like that, to access a second floor window. If we're going to do that, same as if we're putting to the roof of a house, we want to extend those rungs 3 to 5 rungs above that roof line. That's going to give us a good handhold to get on and off that roof with a victim or without a victim if we don't find anything. You can see a picture of that right here. And these guys going in for a VEIS procedure, and they're all geared up and ready to go, except for gloves. There you go. Questions thus far on ladders? Discussions about not using ladder tips to break windows or setting up for a rescue from the beginning. Okay. Search priorities. We learned all these in Fire 1 and 2. I'm going to start the fire floor above the fire, the top floor, floors in between, and then floors below. Doesn't really change a whole lot. Different areas of a building can be searched simultaneously if you have the manpower. If not, you want to start with your areas that have the highest probability of finding a victim. Sometimes those search areas can change so that you can rescue somebody that is both reachable and in imminent danger. Sometimes your loudest victims might not be the victims in the most danger. So we talked about your search priorities. Fire being on, let's say, the second floor with the Temple Ridge Apartments right down here. So Temple Ridge Apartments, you have a fire in unit 202. Let's say a fire in unit 102. Well, you have somebody that's 4 units down or 3 apartments down, and they're screaming for help because there's fire on their floor. But you have somebody that's in unit 202 directly above them. Who do you think may be in more danger? 202. So fire floor, what we read before, was our search priority. But in this case, unit 202 might be the search priority. So just because somebody's the loudest doesn't mean that they're in the most danger. VEIS will search on areas that have the highest probability of finding a victim. We're going to maximize our efforts and start there. We're going to talk about where we're going to find the most victims. Anybody have any estimates? Throw something out. There's only so many rooms I have. Bedrooms. Good guy. 51% of people were found in bedrooms. This came from the U.S. Fire Administration, FEMA. Of civilian fire deaths, 50.9% 51% of people will just say, were found in bedrooms. The next leading room was a common room, and that includes dens, family room, living room, or lounge. Was only 9.9%. Also note that only 14% of fires started in bedrooms. So, only 14% of fires started in these bedrooms, and yet 51% of people are dying in a bedroom. Anybody care to speculate why? Yeah? They're asleep. All those reasons are true. Yeah. They all contribute and add to their sleep. Now, if you take a look at this graph here, you'll notice a little bit of an inverse wave here. The yellow lines indicate civilian fire deaths. The blue lines indicate fires. You'll notice that when we have more fires, we have less civilian fire deaths. And when we have the least amount of fires, we have the most civilian fire deaths. You guys in the back might not be able to see the times, but you notice that the biggest uptick in fire deaths really kind of starts at about 10 o'clock, maybe 11, and then it starts to drop off the most at about 6 or 7 a.m. We're sleeping. All right, so we had the least amount of fires, but we had the most amount of fire deaths. 20% of the reported fires accounted for 51% of the fire deaths. So 80% of fires aren't killing the majority of people. It's 20%. It's a real small number of fires, or percentage of fires, that are killing the big giant group of people. So when we put that together, we know where to look for them, and we kind of know when to look for them. We're starting to develop that profile of where we're going to find a victim, of where we're going to maximize our search efforts, where we want to focus our efforts. Does everybody here have a tick on their truck? Okay. We're not fortunate enough to have ticks on all of our trucks in the city. Our rescue squads, our chiefs, and then the new pumpers have them, as well as the pin ladders. So it's something that we're working towards. This VEIS procedure can be done without a tick. If you have it, use it. But you can't overly rely on it. If we're going to do a training with the tick right now, we go out to the engine bay, what are we going to look for? What type of heat signature? If we're looking for a person. We're looking for something hot or cold. Yeah. Yeah, you're looking for something warmer. Now, if we're in a fire, what are we looking for? Something a little cooler or something a little hotter? Something a little cooler. So you got to change your thinking a little bit. That silhouette should still stand out to you. It really shouldn't matter with the color, but something to kind of think about. One thing that tick is really good for, though, is managing and monitoring our conditions in the room. You'll see later on we're going to have a firefighter stationed outside of the room, and they can really watch to see what's going on. They can watch to see if temperatures are rising, conditions are not improving, so they can let that firefighter inside know it's time to get out. The other thing you can do with them is the guy outside the room, he can help guide that guy inside. So, do you think it'd be easier to crawl around looking through that tick, or just crawl around and have somebody tell you where to go? So you can crawl around, look through a screen, and try and stop and figure out where you're going, or I can say, Dan, the door's all the way back, and then to your left, 3 feet to your left. Okay, it's very easy to do. Questions about that? Comments about using the tick? Differences of opinion? Okay. That's what I thought. Risk versus reward. We're always doing a risk assessment every time we have a fire. Every time we go throughout the fire, we're deciding, what do we want to do? Is this worth it? The old fire department adage is, risk a lot to save a lot, risk little, save little, risk nothing to save nothing. So throughout that fire, we're continually doing that. Our chief officers, I know you guys are definitely doing that on the outside. You're looking, you're thinking, all right, is it time to pull these guys out? Because, the privates were inside and we just want to get it. That's all we're thinking about. We're trying to think about getting to that person, trying to get that fire knocked down. Chiefs on the outside are worried about making sure that we make it home to our families. We're often tasked with difficult decisions at a fire. Somebody tells you their loved one's inside, that's going to weigh on you. But we need to not let those emotions carry over to us. Their emergency is not our emergency. And it's not our job to decide whether or not somebody is worth saving, only whether or not they're savable. So, does that make sense to everybody? So, the primary causes of civilian fire fatalities is burns and smoke inhalations, coming in at 46.2%. Smoke inhalation by itself at 39.5%, and then thermal injuries alone at 5.3%. Well, some of the first thing is telling me is that burns and smoke inhalation, people are taking a big gasp of hot air. It's burning their airways. They're also ingesting a lot of those toxins. Smoke inhalation, again, still that's even if that's not toxic or superheated smoke, it's still toxic gases that they're breathing in. So if we can get into these buildings, we can get these doors shut. We know that the smoke starts at the top and layers its way down. We still might have victims at the bottom that are still safe. So what's survivable? What can we survive? So depending on heat flux, how long we've been in heat, and how fast that heat rises, a firefighter can withstand temperatures of up to 500 degrees for 5 minutes. So that can change. Maybe if your gear's already preheated, then maybe you can't withstand that as long. That's how much heat your gear can absorb. Unprotected skin, you'll start to have rapid burns to your hair and skin at 200 degrees. Total incapacitation at 300 degrees. You're done. There's no more. Anybody remembers from some of those pictures earlier, it showed that the temperatures at the floor were topping at about 170. I think there maybe was one that was 190. So they were still tenable atmosphere. People were getting burned, but they were surviving. These temperatures can occur in unprotected rooms. We saw before that rooms that were closed, the temperature really never rose above 100 degrees. If the doors stayed closed the entire time, the temperature never really rose above 100 degrees. So we could find somebody in there, and they're fine. They're just trapped. They're unable to get out. Consider that your ceiling temperature is going to be significantly higher when you're looking with a thermal imager than what your temperature at the floor might be. That's where we're going to find people, right? We got Spider-Man in there. Again, this is what I was just talking about. Your room that was closed from the beginning never really rose above 100 degrees. This room here, with the bedroom door open, once we open this door here, the fire's on the first floor here in the living room. Temperature there is around 1,300 degrees. We open this bedroom door, or we open this bedroom window to the open room. The temperature rose up to about 170 degrees. And then was at about 170 degrees. We closed the window, broke the window, climbed in, closed the door. The temperature dropped from 170 degrees to 120 degrees at 1 foot above the floor. The smoke was charging through that room at about 12 miles an hour. Close that door, it stops. So 170 degrees is still survivable. It's not pleasant, but survivable. So how long do we have to close that door? UL tests have kind of shown that you have about 80 seconds to get in and close that door before temperatures can start to rise to levels where people can't survive. So that should give you enough time. That's why we don't break the ladder or break the window from the ground, break it from the ladder, and we go in and we shut that door right away. That's our main priority in this case, is shutting that door. Questions? So the science putting all this stuff together. That's kind of what we just talked about with some of that stuff there. We want to look for it should be 4 conditions. 4 conditions before we decide to VEIS. And actually it was going to be 5. I didn't get a chance to update this yet. If your department uses a positive pressure attack, you can't do a VEIS procedure while you're doing a positive pressure attack. That 12 mile an hour wind that we talked about a few slides ago will be 40 miles an hour or whatever. So positive pressure attack or VEIS. You can't do them at the same time. You can do one or the other, but just not at the same time. So we want to look for a building is pre-flashover. We want to have a targeted search area, a place that we're highly likely to find a victim, and that it's faster than a traditional search technique. This building, pre-flashover or post-flashover? Post. Think we're going to find anybody in there that's alive? Okay. Not a trick question. Targeted. We want to look for areas that are highly likely to have a victim. We want a targeted search. We want to go to a room of a house, a bedroom. We're not looking to go and search an entire floor. That's just a primary search. VEIS is for a specific room, a specific place. Place that's highly likely to find a victim. So if you pull up to a fire and the neighbor saunters over and says, I think Matt's home. Maybe. But if you see, lady comes running out and says, my husband Matt is still in his room or he's in his office right there. And she points to that window, that's a credible source. So we want to look for credible sources. So you want to find a spouse, a parent, somebody else that managed to escape. Okay, those are the people that we want to look towards first, or look for first. Okay, so I'm sure we've all been to a fire where somebody says, "They're in there. I know they're in there." Turns out they're on vacation. They haven't seen the person in a week, and they just assumed that it's night and that their neighbors must be home. So before you put yourself in that predicament or that position, you want to make sure that it's a highly likely situation or scenario. The fastest route. So where do we all go when there's a fire? To the fire. Everybody grabs a hose and get a big long line of firemen trying to get in because we all want to get heat. We all want to get our helmets seasoned and we want to go home and have soot in our nostrils and tell everybody how tough we were or something, But that's what's going to happen on this porch here. Maybe that porch is blocked by fire itself or it's just jammed up with firemen all trying to get in. Meanwhile, you could go around back and go in through a window and make a rescue, save a life. Maybe there's security features to the house that's going to slow things down. Maybe, a lot of times people don't have the second story windows barred up. They're not fortified the same way first floor is. Maybe there's an odd layout to the house. You got to take a long way to get around. You don't know exactly how to get there, something like that. It's all cut up. Or maybe your path is blocked by fire. In this picture here, our bedrooms, I think there's a bedroom here and there's a bedroom there. You can't get to those bedrooms through the hallways. You got to go through a window, or you can fight through the fire and then get there. But if there's people inside, you want to get to those people first. Questions about any of that? Tools you're going to need. You're going to need a forcible entry tool, 6-foot or greater pike pole, flashlight, a tick if you have it, and a ladder if you're doing an elevated VEIS. Can you do the VEIS from a first floor? Yeah, absolutely, yeah. You don't have to have a ladder. Just look for it. Forcible entry tool, we know what we're going to use that for. We're going to break the windows, break in. We're going to sweep the floor, extend our search area, look for people. 6-foot pike pole. What we can do with this is hook it on the windowsill and use that as an anchor or a point of orientation for yourself if you were to get lost, or so that it's a direct line back to a window. So once you go in, the captain or officer on the outside will hook it to the windowsill, and then as you're searching, you come to that pike pole, you know where you're at, you can come straight back to the window. I say a longer pike pole if you need to, if it's a bigger room. Anybody have any ideas why a search rope might not be the best in this scenario? Think about, a bedroom. How much stuff's in a bedroom? You're trying to crawl around it, and you'd be all tangled up in there. Patrick, reading ahead. No. Flashlights are going to help you maintain your orientation, aid in your search. You're going to help the fireman outside kind of keep an eye on you because he can see the light through the smoke. You can use that if you're inside to help kind of peek under the smoke. Talked about before, if you have your thermal imager, you can use it to monitor changing smoke conditions, look for victims, and look for what else? Holes in the floor. What's one of the number one things we're looking for here? Back door. Look for the door. Now, good answers, everybody else do. You can also use that tick to guide the guy back to you, to the window. Ladder, if we're going to do an elevated thin inner search procedure. What we're going to do, put all those steps together and take a look at it and see how it works out. So you're going to pull up to a fire. What's the first thing we do? 360. We're going to do our 360. We're going to gather our information. Help, help, my baby, my baby. We're going to determine that there's a need, and we're going to make sure that those 4 critical criteria are met. This building has not flashed over. We have a targeted search area. They're telling me they're in that room right there. There's a high victim probability. So somebody tells you, there's somebody in there. And it's the fastest method of entry. Is it going to be faster for me to ladder a window and break a window, crawl around, do that, or just walk through the front door? It just depends. Want to notify command, make sure that everybody's on the same page. What's one reason we want to notify command that I just discussed 2 minutes ago? Well, about your positive pressure attack. Flow pass, yeah. If I go in and I don't notify command that we're doing this procedure, and your standard SOGs are to do a positive pressure attack, Brian's got somebody firing up the fan right after I break out that window, it's going to be bad news. Now you're going to burn up a fireman, you're going to burn up a victim. So you got to notify command, make sure everybody's on the same page, and that permission's been granted. Didn't he look like he's really getting permission and stuff there? So we're going to ladder the window if we need to. Otherwise, we're going to break the window. We're going to ensure that that window or that room is tenable for the moment. So break the window, smoke will start to lift, and it's tenable for the moment. We're going to reach in and we're going to sweep the floor. Why do we sweep the floor first? Make sure it's there. Make sure what else isn't there. Yeah, you don't step on somebody. How bad are you going to feel if you knock somebody in the head with your axe trying to sound the floor, and that's what got them? No victims are found. Sound the floor. I think some of these might have got out of order. They did. Sorry about that. We're going to don our SCBA, go on air, and be ready for immediate entry. Ladder our window. You guys see where I went out of order? I had to slide out. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. You'll access the window from either a ground ladder or from the window, or from the ground. You'll vent the window. Now the clock's ticking. As soon as you break that window, the clock is running. How long do we have? What was that time we talked about? 80 seconds. All right? Clear the sash, the curtains, and all the glass. And then now's when you'll sweep the floor and all that stuff like that. You're going to make a controlled entry. What's a controlled entry? Does that mean diving in recklessly head first? Good. So if we dive in like that, we're not paying attention. We might dive right into a piece of furniture or something like that. And now we're a part of the problem instead of the solution. So take your time. Go in slow. Know what you're looking for. Once you're in, you want to try and peek underneath the smoke and locate the door. What do you do if you find the door? Go straight to the door. What do you do if you find a victim before you find the door? Shut the door. You only got so much time. It's right there in big red lettering. All right? So when you get to that door, you can take a quick peek outside that door and make sure there's nobody else outside the room and check for condition. What's that? Right, should have been in here. Too late. So you want to take a quick peek, make sure there's nobody out there. But that doesn't mean that, all right, well, there's nobody here, but maybe they're down the hall, they're in the next room over. One room at a time, okay? Make sure there's nobody there. We're going to close the door. Closing that door is our number one priority once we're in that room. Even if we find a victim, we're going to climb over them, remember where they're at, shut the door. Once you're in there, you're going to start searching the room. The captain or the guy outside the room is going to hook that pike pole on the windowsill, and that's going to give you a point of reference to make your way out. You're going to monitor the conditions with your tick. If heat conditions start to rise, something's not going right, you're going to let the guy inside know, hey, things are going bad, it's time to go. You're going to search that room once that door is closed. The captain or the guy outside should direct you towards your victim. You don't need to use your regular right-hand search pattern in this instance. If somebody's telling you where to go where they're telling you. I mean, if you're crawling around the wall, and somebody says, they're to your left, they're right over there, just go over there, get them out. You're orientated already. You have the tick to orientate you, your flashlight, and your pike pole. You find your victim, you want to find that pike pole right away, and then you can take yourself right to the window. You don't have to try and retrace your steps. Follow the fireman's voice on the outside, they can lead you to the window. Once you get to the window, you simply pass the victim onto the ladder or out to the other guy, and he can take himself on out. From there, you're going to go ahead and exit the building and look for your next assignment. What do you see in this picture? Go ahead, shot anything out that you see that could be pertaining to this. Obviously, he's performing a VEIS procedure. Fire towards the rear. Okay. What do you notice about the smoke? Where's the neutral plane?
Pretty low.
Pretty low, but it's not down here at the floor yet. Okay, so you still got some time. Here's something else. It's kind of hard to see in this picture. There's a window here. Every other window has fire blowing out of it. So that window there, not having anything blowing out of it, tells me that maybe there's not fire there yet. There's no fire blowing out of here. So that room itself isn't on fire. I have some time to get in there and close the door and find a victim. All right, where would I maybe guesstimate I could find a door? Straight across, yeah. Generally, our doors are located straight across from our windows. They're built that way to help aid with natural ventilation. Not all houses are like that. Some things, some of them vary, but in general, your doors will be in close proximity to across from the window. What about this picture? What do you notice or see? It's kind of blurry, I know. What about the first floor? Not a lot of smoke. There's some smoke coming out, yeah. There's a lot of debris and junk in there. So yeah, this fire might be a vacant house, but there could... That's okay. Could be a vacant house, but it could be a hoarder. There could be just a lot of junk in there. So that debris could hinder your search path or hinder your way to get into the stairwell to get up to that second floor. So in this case, that might be a better way to go. Besides the glove issue we saw earlier, what do you notice in this picture? Yeah, there's not a lot of smoke. They're working off a roof, so you don't have to, can't put a ladder right to the window. I can't do it. You can adapt. This picture here is a little hard to see, but what do you notice in here? Yeah, it's vented through the roof. This whole back half of the house is really going. They actually did make a rescue here, doing a VEIS procedure. But there's no fire or anything blowing out of this window. It's telling me that, hey, maybe this room's not on fire. There's something separating it. It's isolated in some way. Also notice the picture itself is a little distorted, but their ladder angle is pretty shallow. It's well beyond that 60. So then enter isolated search is a proven tactic. Showed you 3 examples there, where people have actually made arrests. It can work, and it has worked. In its purest and simplest form, it requires only 2 people. So it doesn't mean that it's for every fire, but it could be for some fires. So when you pull up to a fire, if your departmental SOGs allow it, if you're tasked with making a confirmed rescue or pulling a line, you might have to make the decision to go for a confirmed rescue. Because our ultimate goal is to save lives. I'm not advocating going in and being John Wayne without, a hose line for protection, but we risk a lot to save a lot, risk little to save little, risk nothing to save nothing. So some of those pictures we saw, those rooms are pretty well isolated and separated from the fire areas, and that might be our best bet to save a life. That was it. Does anybody have any questions or discussions about any of it? Cool. Well, check with your departmental SOGs, and just because you took this class and went through it doesn't mean that you are certified and you're the VIS guy and you're ready to go for everything. For part of my class, there's a really quick 10-question test. If I could pass it out and you guys could hammer through that real fast, I would really appreciate it, and it would help me out.
So while you're passing that out, next week we'll do the practice. If that does not work,
It's easy.
we'll use our measurement and turn that into a process. So I spent all the time so next week. So I actually get to do this stuff for real fake smoke. So okay? Yeah, we got the live burn thing coming up the week after that.
Thanks, sir. Mm-hmm. If you guys don't want to put your name on there, you don't have to. But it will help me to see where I'm, how I did as far as presenting the material.